Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. You're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank former voice of the Gators, David Steele, for our introduction today. Got a good show. That means we got our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, in just a minute. Some college football last night, if you wanted to watch that. Also, the World Series kicks off tomorrow, and the NBA was in full force last night. But got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Florida, Georgia, a few days away, and folks are getting excited. We're going to find out how excited, how crowded it's getting over there. People rolling in with their RVs. We're going to go to the Titan Tomorrow hotline now. We're joined by our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. He's courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Good morning, Brent. How you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing well. What a great week this is. I've always said this is the biggest week of the year in Jacksonville, and this year will be no different. The weather is supposed to be very good, but yes, there is plenty that's going on, and college football had a chance to cover Alabama, Tennessee. We'll have a chance to be at Florida, Georgia, so excited about last week and upcoming this week.
Yeah, a couple of YouTubes brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Jim says, I'm looking at tickets. He says they're $600 a piece. I don't know where those are located. Are these tickets going for quite a bit, Brent? Have you heard?
I haven't. Frankly, I'd be surprised if they're going for that much.
Yeah.
I mean that's very. I mean, I'm not disputing what he's saying, but certainly, I would think that would kind of level off in the next day or two, though.
Yeah, for sure. We got a couple of Facebook Lives brought to you by Mel Law before we jump into it. Shelvin says, Shane and Brent, I'm a little concerned about all five of the QBs the Gators will face in the next 5 games. 3 of them are having banner years. Are our DBs up to the task? I like our DBs. Look, it's hard to play defensive back, and they're going to give up completions. I mean, that's just the way the game is. It favors the offense. Yes, Carson Beck's having a good year. The kid from Missouri's having a good year. Jordan Travis is having a good year. Who am I missing? Oh, Jaden Daniels. I think he's the SEC player. I think he should win the Heisman Trophy, quite honestly, the way he's playing. So we'll talk more about that. But all right, real quick, Brent. Andy says, Brent, we know the Dogs' passing game will be impacted by Bowers being out, but won't his absence affect their running game as well?
Possibly. The thing that affects their running game is much or more than that. Frankly, is just trying to get these guys healthy. I mean, Kendall Milton is a kid that he either has hamstring injuries or now he is dealing with other injuries. So that has been a problem with him too. The thing with Bowers is Bowers covers a multitude of sins. I mean, Bowers, frankly, is arguably, if he would have stayed healthy, he would have been in my Heisman top 5 to go to New York, because I think he's just that good in what he is able to do. Frankly, they're going to also get Ladd McConkey back for more reps. That's going to help. The Kendall Milton thing is now as an MCL, he has been going on with hamstrings that have been a problem too. Maris Mims is out of a boot. He's offensive lineman. They're hoping to get him back pretty soon too. But yeah, you can't lose one of the better players in the nation and it not affect you. And they've got great depth, and they will be okay in the long run. And they think they will get him back by at least the SEC championship game.
Dan says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel. I thought the latest ESPN article about Napier was interesting, how bad the chemistry was last year in the team. That came straight from a player's mouth. The chemistry from last year to this year is totally different. And I think
Yes.
it goes from leadership starting at the quarterback position. Brent, look, I got to get your thoughts, and I've kind of followed it. I'm trying to get more information because this whole Michigan thing is fascinating. When it first came out about sciencing, I'm like, what's the big deal? Everybody does it. I mean, I
Yeah.
did it as a coach, I
Right.
did it as a player, I did it in the NFL when I wasn't playing. I helped steal signals. That was before they went to the headset communication. But I mean, it's bizarre that this dude was buying tickets to all these different potential opponents of Michigan and videotaping everything. And I still, to what I was talking to some of my buddies yesterday about this. Even if you do know the play coming, to get it into your defense or to your offense
Yeah.
in that quick of a time, I don't think it's possible.
Well, this thing's growing more tentacles by the day, and it's becoming a little bit of a story that a lot of people laughed at the beginning. To now, it's becoming, uh, I mean, something out of a fiction novel. Frankly, the Washington Post. This was last night. That there's an outside firm that's investigating what is going on here, and the problem is that this Connor Stallions, who's become a household name, unfortunately, one of a Michigan staffer who's at the center of it. From the Post story, there was a detailed schedule of Michigan's planned sign stealing travel for the rest of the season, listing opponent schedules, which games Michigan scouts would attend, and how much money was budgeted for travel and tickets to scout each team. See, this has become allegedly a scheme that involves. I mean, I've seen a budget of like $15,000 to $20,000. I'm not sure that's all correct, but that's in the story that that they would have people go to these various games and be able to get the signs and steal the signs. I mean, they originally started doing it from the television. Now they're going to games, and this guy Connor Stallions, even in one of the stories I read, has some kind of a Michigan manifesto in basically taking over the program at some point. But it's like you said, stealing signs goes on all the time. But sending someone to scout games is another situation. Okay, two quick things because we only want to give this so much. We only have so much time for this, and I'll be brief with it. The reality is, what comes of this? Well, we don't know. Will the NCAA have a formal investigation of it? Well, if they do, their investigations run a year to year and a half. So nothing's going to be done immediately unless the Big Ten Conference wants to do something. Now, you cannot convince me that the Big Ten Conference is going to interfere with Michigan being in the playoffs and possibly playing for a national championship. Now, my question to you, from your experience, would be, I've checked with some people yesterday. I said, where is this heading? And they said where it's heading is, we've got the technology now, as you mentioned a minute ago, of basically putting a radio receiver, for lack of a better word, in the quarterback's helmet. That way you can get the signals in, and you don't have to use these silly signs that they hold up on the sidelines. Now, people may forget this, but back in the 70s, and you probably remember this, well, certain teams had an assigned player that would run onto the field, go to the huddle, give them the play, and run back to the sidelines. Now, we won't see that again probably, but I do think, isn't it, Shane, the radio receiver with the technology is what's coming down the line sooner than later.
Yeah, Jim says here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, with as much money as college football brings in, don't understand the cost issues of switching to the helmet communication. It's not an issue for your big boys. It could be the issue for the Bowling Greens and the Akrons of the world. I don't know how much it costs, but it can cost. Because with the way it works in the NFL, all the quarterbacks have it, and then I think your middle linebackers had the headset. So here's the difference, though, between the NFL and college if they went to the headset. In college football, the quarterback doesn't even communicate to the wide receivers anymore. Everybody's receivers, tight ends, and running backs are looking at a certain guy on the sideline signaling, whether that's a GA, an analyst, an actual on-the-field coach. So I believe some teams, if you're the tight end, you look at the tight end coach and he's giving you the signal of the play, the formation, and what your responsibility is. So you're still going to have some communication in college football, or still probably going to be some signals going on if they do go to that, because teams go so fast, Brent, and they're so spread out. They never huddle. Right. So the receivers that's on opposite side of his sideline is just looking at one person to figure out, okay, what's the formation? What's the route I'm supposed to run? Is it a run play? Is it a pass play? He's looking at that one guy. So that's not going to change. I mean, you can eliminate some of your signals a little bit, but it's a very interesting deal, and it would save a lot of meeting time. It would save a lot of wasted time that college athletes have to do to go over signals. So I'm all for it. Hopefully it happens, but we'll see. Superfly says on YouTube, I saw a story last night on the news outlet where South Carolina's involved, and LSU also. Michigan was sending packages to Beamer and Kelly, knocking Bama and Tennessee out of the playoffs. Wouldn't that be something? But again, I know from a fact, even if you have those signals, it is so hard to communicate or give another signal. Let's just say, teams look at the sidelines on offense to get the signal. Let's say Michigan has it. Okay, now Michigan has to translate it to their players on defense in a split second. And I can see it happening every now and then. But, because in high school, it's easy to steal signals. And we used to scream out, watch the skinny post or watch the wheel route here. Because if you had their signals, and still, our damn defensive guys would screw it up. They wouldn't listen. Anyway, it's a very interesting story, and I think it's going to get worse as it goes on.
Yes.
Yeah. Brent, the SEC makes a lot of money, but wastes a lot of money as well.
Well, it does, and this is interesting as far as I give Matt Hayes credit for this from Saturday Down South. From 2010 to 2021, the SEC reportedly paid out $123 million in what he called dead money. And dead money means to coaches who are no longer coaching. That's so this is something that goes on a good bit. Now, this has been brought up because are there going to be some firings in the SEC? And obviously, and I really like this guy, but unfortunately, Sam Pittman could be the next one at Arkansas. So people are beginning to figure that out. Could Jimbo be one? I don't think that's going to happen. But if they continue to lose, we don't know. But this is something that's going on for years in the SEC. People would be amazed, Shane, you understand this, that even after a coach is gone, you're still paying a coach really for years. So that they stretch out the payments and so forth. People understand that, I believe. But when you actually add the money up, it is kind of staggering, isn't it?
It is nuts, and you feel sorry for these coaches that get fired. I mean, it's a tough business on families.
It
There's
is.
no question,
It
and
is.
mostly it affects the assistants. They still get paid their contract, but their contracts are nowhere near what these head coaches have been making. Um, do you think Sam Pittman gets fired, Brent?
Well, I'm still not sure if they're going to go that way because he has made some changes in the staff. Dan Enos, the offense coordinator, has been fired. They actually have a new wide receivers coach that they just promoted. So I think the question is going to be if they can end on a better note. Can they show some progress too? And look, they've got Florida, Auburn, FIU, which is not very good. They were on last night, and Missouri. So things don't look real good as far as to end the year. Frankly, I hope they give them another year and see what they can do. I don't know who they would have as far as trying to hire at this point. One thing that he did say that I'm not sure that I would have said, frankly, was they had a situation in the Mississippi State game that was 7-3, and they were trying to figure out what to do. Would they do we punt or do we
Oh
go for
dear.
a field goal? And Pittman actually admitted that he said they ended up punting, and his comment was, "To be honest with you, I really didn't know what to do." Now
Oh,
I appreciate his transparency in saying that because that's an honest because we're all in that situation from time to time. But for a head coach to admit I didn't know what to do, I'm not sure how that will be taken.
yeah. And you think back a couple of years ago, everybody was loving him. They were playing the jukebox after
Yep,
wins in the locker
yep,
room,
that's
and
right.
my goodness, now I think they fire him. I think Jimbo gets fired after this year too, Brent.
Well,
I really
here's my
do.
thing. Let me say this real quick about Jimbo, and I may, if people miss this, I'll say it again briefly. Uh, an A&M beat writer heard him say they may actually keep Jimbo through next year, or at least through the end of this year, going into next year, because Texas and OU join the SEC. A&M and Texas are playing. That Texas game is humongous for A&M, and they're going all out to win that game. And to go all out to win that game, this is the logic from the beat writer. The beat writer said that I think they'll keep him because they can keep if they keep Jimbo, they think they'll keep most of that roster intact, and they won't have a lot of change. So the less change may mean that will give us a chance to beat to beat Texas. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. That will be the final decision. That came from an A&M beat writer, and I'm just passing that along.
Yeah. Jim says here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, if teams didn't offer these huge buyouts across the board, it wouldn't be an issue. I understand that's probably damn near impossible, but that would work. Yeah, it's an all agent driven business. So if Brent Beard's the hot commodity out there, and Florida's looking at him, Texas and Alabama, whatever, all these Power Fives, and one school's not going to give a buyout, they're going to go, well, we're going to go to the other school and get our buyout.
Sure, absolutely.
It's all Coach Spurrier thinks it's the dumbest thing ever, that these guys are getting these huge contracts when
Yeah.
they don't win. But it's the way of the world. The agents have driven that business. Van Der says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Shane, back in the day, we used to call it the dead horse play. That's when the coach yells, "Dead horse," and a player falls down and pretends that he is hurt. What are your thoughts on the dead horse play? Well, the dead horse play happens a lot,
It
especially if the
does.
offense goes fast.
Yep.
Uh, there's no way to regulate it if a guy's actually hurt or flopping or being a dead horse or acting like a dead horse. It's I guess sometimes if it's your team and you're slowing, that's a way to slow down their momentum. It's a good thing, but it's interesting. You can't really put a penalty on it if a guy goes down.
Right,
On the
right.
Tatum text line, this is from Daryl says if Jimbo loses to South Carolina, he might be gone. I think he would if he loses to him. I don't think they will though. And this is from Kevin in Punta Gorda. He says, "Have you seen the AT&T commercial about the helmet for the deaf?" I have not seen that. Have you seen that, Brent?
I have. That's very interesting. If people want to Google that, I don't understand all the ins and outs of it, but it's a neat commercial that somehow they're able to communicate with each other, and it really shows that this team that basically is a deaf team is able to play and enjoy being together and all that. I mean, it's a feel good commercial, but it's also shows you the technology that's available today.
Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. Speaking with our Heisman Trophy voter and college football analyst Brent Beaird on the Titan More Hotline. Brent, before we jump back into it here, there was let me see if I can find this Facebook. Oh, Alan says he's asking both of us, how does Jimmy Sexton do it? Do what he does with every coach in the league without any investigations.
Well, Jimmy is really is defined being an agent, and he basically represents the big shakers and the movers, not only in the SEC but in college football in general. And he is able to basically do what Shane said. The greatest thing Jimmy does is, okay, you're representing Coach X, and Coach is a hot commodity. Everybody wants him. And the thing that Jimmy is able to do is either one or two things. He's either able to get his client a new deal with the new school, or he's able to get his client a big raise if he stays at the school where he is, because other schools are coming after him. So, Sexton is the master at this. And I know there's, Trace Armstrong's involved with this too, and some other Pat Dye Jr.'s involved. Those are some names that, but look, as a college football fan, they need to take a moment sometime and Google agents and read on these and just see what an art form this has become and how big a business it is now.
Yeah, for sure. Brent, the SEC, both the East and the West, this is the last year of it, by the way, if people forgot. Can you remember this late in the year when there's so many people, I shouldn't say so many teams. I mean, obviously 3 teams in the East control their own destiny at this point.
Yes.
And I think 2 teams control their destiny in the West, with Ole Miss kind of on the outside looking in. Does that surprise you at all?
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good point. There's still so many things up in the air. Look, the Gators control their destiny. I'm not saying they're going to run the table. The schedule is too brutal, I believe, but it's a credit for them. And look, even Tennessee is at 5-2 at this point, so they're within a couple of games of the top. I don't think I could see Georgia losing a game. I don't think I could see them losing 2. Missouri is the surprise team up there. I mean, Georgia's 7-0, Missouri's 7-1. The Gators are 5-2, and Kentucky and Tennessee are 5-2. That's what makes it so interesting. And as you said, Alabama and LSU play next week, and I think that will be for the Western Division title. But you cannot rule out Ole Miss. They're only 6-1 at this point. Now, Alabama would have the tiebreaker over them. Ole Miss has the tiebreaker over LSU. So, Shane, there's no doubt about it. It's probably been a while since we've gone into this close to Halloween and have things this wide open.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go around the league. In Alabama, you were at the Alabama-Tennessee game. Brent, Were you sitting in the stands with your family, or were you in the press box?
Well, a little bit of both.
Okay.
Listen to it was to say it was a tale of two halves would be would be an understatement. I mean, Alabama had no intensity, no injury. Tennessee came out. Joe Milton played as well as he had in really the whole year. Down 20-7, Bama outscores them 27-0 in the second half. Their defense made a real difference in that game. Now, Tennessee is not Tennessee of last year because Joe Milton's not Hendon Hooker. But at the same time, they're much better defensively. Alabama's much better defensively too. So, but it was really an incredible turn of events how this game turned out. Jalen Milroe he's not a Heisman candidate, but he to his credit, he has improved. Still not a real good intermediate passer, but he was able to make some plays. They're off this week with a gargantuan game coming up next week with LSU coming to town.
Yeah. So the reason I asked you if you were in the box, because obviously if you're in the box, there's no clapping, there's no cheering or whatever up in the press box. Like the first half, what were kind of the feelings going on? I mean, were the Alabama faithful like, oh boy, I can't believe what I'm seeing here?
Well, no, that's a really good question. The sentiment was, if this continues, I'm leaving by the middle of the third quarter, was what I heard. And the main sentiment was, does Saban make a change and sit Milroe down and go with one of the other quarterbacks? So, but he stayed with Milroe and he went through that. I mean, frankly, the stadium was as loud as I've ever heard it during the comeback. So, in Saban credited the fans for what had happened, but I mean, frankly, they have made. Are they a national championship team? Probably not, but they have made some significant improvement to at least put themselves in the conversation.
Auburn's hosting Mississippi State. State's coming off a 7-3 win. Auburn loses again. Auburn cannot throw the football forward and complete a pass. It is absolutely amazing how bad they are at throwing the football. What do you see in this game? Another boring, low-scoring game?
Yeah, this could be instead of 7-3, it may be 7-6. And Shane explained this to me because I don't understand it. Look, I like Hugh Freeze, and he will get Auburn turned around at some point. But Freeze continues to go with this quarterback rotation of Robbie Ashford and Peyton Thorne, and neither one of them are working. And to Shane's point, and he's correct, Auburn really does well right now to get 100 yards passing in a game. I don't mean in a half, I mean in a game. But they can run the ball. They're a pretty good defensive team. Now, the big thing with State is, from what we can tell, Will Rogers will miss this game too. And Mike Wright, who came from Vanderbilt, is the quarterback at Mississippi State right now. The other guy that's hurt is Woody Marks, the running back, who's really good, but he's been banged up a good bit. So the point is, you're really going to have some poor quarterback play in this game. So who can either run the ball and play defense is going to make a difference. They both really need a win in a lot of ways. And I don't know if you saw the Hugh Freeze press conference after the game last week.
I did,
Shane, but he was shaking his head and frankly had very few answers.
Yeah, well, they're beyond awful on offense. Their defense plays hard. And he's supposed to be an offensive guru. He hired an offensive coordinator. I thought they said the other day that he went back to calling the plays in this game. Didn't really help. But anyway, all right.
No.
The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I said it. I don't give a damn what anybody else says. That's what I call it. And that's what it is. So 3:30 Saturday in Jacksonville. We've kind of touched on it. Want to add some notes to it, Brent?
Yeah, well, my thing with this game still is going to be can Florida handle Georgia's physicality? They could not against Utah. They could not against Kentucky. But I think what is interesting here is, as you remember, Florida ran the ball, I think it was like 44 times against Tennessee and threw for 21. That worked in that game. What has happened as the season's going on, as we've had time to break this down this week, is Florida has reversed that. They're throwing the ball a lot more, and you predicted this would happen early on. I remember that, and you were spot on, because their running back room is very good. But as Graham Mertz has emerged, that's what's changed. The thing that Florida has got to cut down on is the penalties. They've got 47 for 335 yards. They're 98th in the nation in penalties. So that's something that's going to have to change. Georgia has not forced a fumble this year, which is interesting. They've done well with interceptions along that line. What surprised me is Dom Lovett and Ra Thomas, the two transfers for Georgia, have not done much as far as catching the ball at this point. So that's been a problem for them. Shane, look, I may be totally off on this. I think Florida plays well and is able to take this game into the second half. I think eventually Georgia's line of scrimmage and them being physical and Kirby Smart having almost 10 years of recruiting over Billy Napier has his advantage at some point. But and I remember the game from last year, Florida was in the game until the end of the first half, where they had some crucial turnovers, and Georgia was able to take advantage. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm just going to say that they're going to make it very interesting and be able to keep this thing close, at least into the third quarter.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Withstand the first quarter. Don't do anything dumb. I keep saying, I don't know how this game's going to play out. We have to buckle our chin straps and match the physicality, as you said.
Yes.
Georgia's going to come. That's what they do. However, Georgia has not seen skill guys at all this year of what we're going to throw at them. Quarterback, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. They haven't seen a combination of these type of skill players at all. Now, they may see a little bit better as the year goes on, but up to this point, we are clearly the best that they've seen. So we need to be aggressive and let those guys go make some plays. Brent, another very interesting game, 7 o'clock on ESPN. This is a big rivalry game, but both these teams, they need a win bad, Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're right about that. People may not realize how big a deal this is in those two states, but it is. And last year, Tennessee beat Kentucky 44-6, so I'm sure they will have that in their mind. How quickly does Tennessee rebound from the Alabama loss, or does Alabama beat them twice, as the old saying goes? And again, to me, the thing with Kentucky, and you called this early on too, a few months ago, is how does Devin Leary play, the transfer from NC State? And the problem for Kentucky is he obviously has not played real well. I know you've seen him in person, obviously, and he's around, it was 59% completion rate. Devin Leary now is more closer to 50%. Shane, so he actually continues to go backwards. So they've got to find a way, Lynn Cohen does, the offense coordinator, to get him successful and to get his confidence up at the same time too. So again, who runs the ball better will be huge. Kentucky has run the ball well, obviously against Florida. Tennessee did not run it well against Alabama. That they did against Texas A&M, but to your point, this is a big game for both these teams. Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. Daniel had a question. Brent, you might be able to help me here. I think I have the answer. He said, "What's the radio station in Jacksonville to listen to the call inside the stadium? Wouldn't it be 1010 XL?"
Yeah, that's the Florida station. Yes, in 92.5 would also be the FM, but you would be able to get the game on either one of them. Correct.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Brent. LSU's off, Missouri's off. Ole Miss plays Vanderbilt. That'll be a blowout. Let's move to the ACC. Duke's got to travel to Louisville. Louisville's coming off a bye week. The Dukies, man, they gave Florida State all they wanted. Just
Yeah.
when Riley Limmer was probably about 55, 60% in that game and then went out and then Florida State pulled away. You got to be impressed with what Elko's done with Duke, though.
He's going to be a hot commodity at the end of the year, isn't he, Shane? The reality of it is that, and I talked to a former Florida State player who was at the game, and I just asked him what he thought of Duke, and he said they don't have that much talent. And he said I really like the quarterback, but he said what makes them so good is they're so disciplined, which I thought was very interesting. And again, Elko, who was at Wake Forest, Notre Dame, A&M, and has done a terrific job at Duke. Now I love Brom at Louisville, and I think they're going to be the team to watch for in the next few years. And Shane, I think you do too. As far as where all they can do offensively, but this game to me would be determined how long can Riley Leonard play with that ankle. He re-injured it. I'm sure he's had therapy all week. So, and the game also is at Louisville. So keep an eye on Louisville. I mean, they've done really well. As a matter of fact, right now, FSU 7-0, Louisville 6-1, North Carolina 6-1, and I still say Louisville's a better team than North Carolina overall. Although I love Drake May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good player. Any other news and notes or nuggets you want to give to us from the ACC?
Keep in mind too that Miami is hosting Virginia. We would not think much of that, but Virginia beat North Carolina, which I'm still not sure how that happened, but give them credit. I think the big thing for Miami is going to be, will Tyler Van Dyke be back? He was hurt, and Emory Williams came off the bench and played real well. The reason Miami won that game was their defense played so well, held Clemson to 0.9 yards per rushing attempt. Shane, and the other thing is, watch Clemson. Now, nothing's going to happen to Dabo, but they're going to have to look at themselves at the end of the year and see where they're going. Clemson right now is 4-3, 2-3 in the conference. They're number 8, Shane, in the ACC standings. Would you have ever believed at the beginning of the year that would have happened?
No, not at all. Not at all. But I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you have much information on it, and it's kind of flown under the radar. I mentioned it, I think, yesterday's program. Lincoln Riley's taking a leave of absence. I think Cliff Kingsbury's taken over the head coaching responsibilities this weekend. The pressure's getting to him there. He has the same record through 22 games as the Helton guy that they fired. Do you see Lincoln Riley moving on to the NFL after this year?
Possibly. They made some real mistakes with that football team. They thought they were going to be among the leaders for the Pac-12, and that did just not work. There are a couple things going on there. Number one, people may not have heard this, but they did not allow any of the players to talk to the media after the loss last week. Look, you've got to be able to let your players talk to the media, and if they win or if they lose, that was an awful decision. And they've been hammered all week, and they should be hammered all week for that. Number two is Riley just doesn't believe in defense. I know they've got Alex Grinch, and he has a really good reputation, but defensively, and by the way, I've got these numbers, they're in the top 10 of the worst defenses in the nation. Also in that top 10, which won't surprise you, is South Carolina and Vanderbilt. But at the same time, USC is number 8 in the nation in the worst defenses, allowing 407 yards per game. Riley just has this conviction, according to USC beat writers, that he can just win every game by outscoring people. Well, you got to stop people at some point. By the way, Colorado has the worst defense in the nation statistically. Thought I'd throw that out there too. But no, your point's a very interesting one as far as what he's going to do with that. Oklahoma people are still mad at Riley, by the way, and they're taking a lot of glee in this that's going on. But boy, they're the crucial part of the season. And there's this silly talk about Caleb Williams shutting it down and going to the NFL. I mean, look, these guys are getting NIL money. They need to play. They need to play for their fan bases and so forth. But, I mean, I think you hit on it. USC is a proud program, but they're in some disarray right now.
Yeah, it's a shame. I like Lincoln Riley's offense. I like the way he calls plays, and he's coached 3 or 4 Heisman Trophy winners. And and I don't know what his deal is with Alex Grinch, his defensive coordinator, but just think, I mean, he has had potential to win multiple national titles with the offenses he's had, and just played just a little bit of defense. And I don't know, it's a shame. It's a shame because boy, he's good offensively. There's no question about that. Brent, before we get you out of here, anything else? Anything else you want to touch on?
Watch LSU, because they've had a slew of injuries in their secondary, and Brian Kelly has already come out to say that they've got several guys who will not play in the Alabama game. So now, look, it's not like they don't have talent, and LSU is a team that can outscore people too. It is another reality to it, but they've got Zy Alexander, Mika Wingo, Deuce Chestnut, and Denver Harris. They could all not play in the Alabama game. So we'll watch that one carefully and kind of see where that goes. I've got to give Rich Rod at Jacksonville State a lot of credit because they've done something unusual. They have played several. They're kind of the Wednesday night team on ESPN. Have you noticed that, Shane? To where, and they beat FIU last night. They played like 4 or 5 Wednesday night games in a row. And look, you're not going to have a lot of people in the stands, unfortunately, but you get a lot of money, and you certainly get a lot of publicity. So I just thought that was interesting in what he's done with that. And by the way, New Mexico State beat La Tech the other day, and Jerry Kill is their coach. If you remember, he was in the Big Ten. I may be off on this, but Jerry, I think, has epilepsy and is really has really overcome a lot of situations. And they've got 6 wins. And if I remember this right, Shane, they haven't had 6 wins, I think, in consecutive years since the 1960s. Wow. So, sometimes these games go under the radar, but I love them because I watch them, and they're fun. But it's amazing to see what Rich Rodriguez and Jerry Kill have done.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a shame Jack State and James Madison can't go to bowl games for some reason.
That's just ridiculous.
It's so dumb.
Don't get me started on that lunacy.
Yeah, no doubt. Brent, appreciate your time, my man. We will see you in the press box Saturday. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, well, can't wait, bud. Thanks.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, joining us on the Titan MRI hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Going to take a quick time out, come back, got a ton of texts, Facebooks, YouTubes. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury, and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. On YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Ronnie asks, good morning, QB. If you could get one or two messages to the offensive staff going into Saturday, what would that be? Like everybody, I'm hoping we'll ride Trey, Etienne, and Ricky. What I'm hoping for is a lot of 11 personnel, meaning one tight end, 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, with number 1, number 3, number 6, and number 8. And then either 2 or 7 at the tailback. I think both of them are outstanding. Go with that personnel and attack. We have to attack the Georgia Bulldogs, put them on their heels, throw it all over them, make them make plays, get PIs, things of that nature. And that's what I would do. Now, obviously, they watch a lot more tape than I do and prepare. And Georgia's a different animal. You got to give them credit, man. They won 24 straight back-to-back national titles. They got some good dudes over there for sure. And he says, Shane, with Quinn Ewers out at Texas this week, why is there no talk with Arch Manning getting snaps? Because another kid is the backup, believe it or not. I can't remember his name. He's got his initials are MM. But they talked about he was the backup that came in the other day when Ewers got hurt. They said they might start getting Arch Manning a few more reps. Possibly he could play, but that other kid is going to be the starter. Scott says I saw Andy Jean being third on the depth chart still. I don't pay any attention to that depth chart, and I don't think y'all should either. He tweaked his hamstring. What was the last game he played in? I think it was the Vanderbilt game, possibly. So I would assume he'll be ready to roll. And Asa says, I mean, it's this simple. Defense has to pressure the quarterback. Yes, no question. And we have got to stop the run to a degree. It's not, I mean, they're going to get some yards. But it's time for us to play our best game on both sides of the ball and special teams. Wouldn't that be something? Look, it happens every week in college football, upsets. Every week. Why can't we go upset the Dogs? I think we can if we play up to our potential. So Truett says 24 straight means they are due. You're very, very, very true. Very, very true. Perry Mason says, I think Arliss Boardingham will have a big game. Let's hope so. Let's hope so for sure. 1966 HBC beers available at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the Swamp, and select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager. That's 1966 HBC beer. I also want to get to this day in sports, which is brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This day in sports, I'm sure people remember this. In 1997, in the World Series, I remember exactly where I was. I was with the Carolina Panthers. The Florida Marlins beat the Cleveland Indians 3-2 in Game 7 at Pro Player Stadium. It was the Marlins' first ever title. The MVP of the series was Livan Hernandez. I remember that. That's when they had the teal uniforms with the black and white pinstripes. Didn't I want to say they went and got like Moises Alou, and they made a bunch of trades or signed a bunch of older guys that could play. But that's This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Dan says UGA only has 5 underclassmen starting on defense and offense. Yeah, they got players, man. I mean, think about it. They've had like the number 1, 2, or 3 recruiting class ever since Kirby's been there, just stacking players on top of one another. Been something else. Hopefully the Gators continue doing that. I've already read that text. All right, let's see what we got over here. Perry Mason, on defense, we need to just bend and not break. Yeah, no big explosive plays. Make them drive the length of the field to get points. Usually when you have long drives, something bad will happen to the offense. You're eventually going to get a holding call, false start, something like that. So I don't know. Are we the home team or the visiting team? I mentioned this yesterday, I think, on my program. I wish we would go back. I can't remember the years that they did it for this game, where we always wore the blue jersey, they wore the red jersey. I like that. Because UCLA, SC, they wear their Cardinal jersey and their baby blue. I like that a lot. Andy says, Shane, do you have any pregame rituals or superstitions when you played during college or NFL? Not really. I was a big chocolate chip cookie guy, still am. I had to have chocolate chip cookies the night before games. So it's funny. The trainers always made sure whatever team I was on that I had about a dozen of them. I didn't eat them all. I gave some of them away, but I really wasn't. My pregame ritual was getting dressed the same. My whole life's a routine, actually, Andy. I know what I eat pretty much the same thing every day. Not for dinner, but for lunch and breakfast, even at age 53. And I kind of do everything at a certain time. Just my whole life's been structured. So it's pretty interesting. I'm not sure what this text says, so I won't read it. Didn't make much sense. Anyway, let's talk about our good friends at Ruzoger State Farm Office. They're a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We are the home team. We have recruits visiting. That is true. Okay, yeah, we are the home team. I'm not a big believer in having recruits to this game. I think it's silly. Coaches can't talk to them. You don't get to see the campus. You get to see a neutral site game, but big deal. So anyway, Tony says, going to be in and out. Got to work, but just wanted to pop in and say Gators win 34-32. He loves the blue and red jersey throwback. 34-32 will be a barn burner, Tony. No question. Well, while you're working, put on your ear pods and listen to Sean and myself and Tate and Cardozo on the broadcast. So hopefully it'll be a good call, be exciting. The South Carolina game was very, very exciting. So anyway, appreciate everybody chiming in on YouTube, on our Titan Tomorrow text line, and on Facebook. And we're getting close, folks. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.